Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all the lineage benevolent masters. Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all beings, please generate Supreme Bodhicitta before today's teaching. Next, we will first recite the oral transmission of the Lotus Sutra, the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. This transmission is indeed very important.
ngani te kyas rignes de la ni ba tang ngeftan de ndartran dollar number chabi lo shiban da ngai menyan to thablam ke ba tang ngevjer de de la yang thabasum da tan kangsum tak ni ba mamchen ne dombar shawi shirna tabsha to vакын алап тембер тирада мунши чигдан ригсым хсым ригм тачен дан дана ранжир намги каньо бавшир мурдо бавшанчу санхва кан ngene venjerim keba tedag la tei chena hwimchung da tak sanje taba chikbun da jete tamjir jarwan jirkin da zon shi sanje kanim chok yishi de kyabram phagshan shin da yutto gon jigten da tak kanne kyabar jan yang bi ngobo devjin shibshir go stop tang sangtan devjin namtra tang tangyen zan tak shewa tama ge 샹타 때는 된점 초인 때 데라 상기 흐르는 머스다가 데라 쯤브르 님슨 다버 시다 디당 다 시당 다와당 대진 로당 와르기 후가라당 후가라시와 동정 다버 시다 대식 냥도 끊는 냠바당 샹주 산화 망부 선장든 샹주 냥보 대진조르데 런친 탁반던 담밤 초 가르지리 초기 인더트르 리버지 초츠 탐츠던 자르이정 키어 담비 탑는 막도바 데레 타바 니스강 메 교지 방아영 교지 방아 쳇정 아이브 교드 남 강스 랍던 직바나 가라시와 몽보 적바이 등을 따글레라 따글레 녜나 랍도 돈 더트름 냥은데 버랑 녜담반 코르 등을 따글레 쳇드 타르데 쳇나 다동 냥은 용만다 산제 탁반 드닙 자를 샤 다나샹츠 선화 강코바 나이 산제 츠르트 드뇽지 디나샹츠 선화 망본더 드너 제르 탑람 케바인 강세 탁바 만바 마바라 데라 셈처 가버 제르나 데체 데응름 파법 뎀바 딱 자르마 송반 직든 렘버른 차드 강놈 시부로 딱 메시베 등을 등을 싸와 맘통와 대덕 라영 대덕 라영 람름 담버샤 츠바금 좀 레너 등으로데 스덕드만네 츠바 도바양 드는 아이 고든 스바 옌나 잔마 옌바 긍거치 타르 레르남 곰네 타르밭 레르남 고네 넘버 타르바른 게 대덕 츠레 남주 샤리 버 메퍼른전레 테르남 남주데 근레 대덕 따동 타르마 옌 냥은 때만 대신 렘버송 데라 타르와 집시르 샷밤 자트 샹첩 담밤 축 더 마토시르 직팀 대비 시르는 에티비 나티비 추지 jarbo ngana tertern dodo tamaterang ena kamshepa ngai chuji yand shari ve harchin jikten tagla pambi shir shugdong shugtsum tagdo shabar ji chuji tambi tsena semchin garjis yerong ji Sigmajam, Dund, Go, Rapt, Lemban, Motiv Shirmer Dober, Chozon, Shear, Dorden de la Tapre, Kera, Cantina, Wengi, Deura Serbam, Ton, Tedernayam, Kurtu Shiba, Yen, Namban Dertavi, Chujan, To, Nai Shapan, Data Cantat, Dene Chotan, I am Tonga, Yen, Nai, Gelon, Gendon, Dokendam, Shanchu San Juan, Data Gunjam, Ton, Mumber Shibi, Rigni, Nend of Tan. Dondi kewo shiba nyubran yer ndele nyantur namgi yer yang met
We are currently discussing the profound and highly revered Buddhist scripture known as the Lotus Sutra, aren't we? Could you please explain what precisely is causing your amusement or laughter at this particular moment? It's perfectly fine. A little laughter is good, isn't it, really? No matter what the situation, adjusting your mindset is very, very important. If your mindset isn't adjusted properly, everyone has their own significant or minor issues that they face. No matter who you truly are, and as long as you continue to live in this world, there will definitely be some troubling matters that arise. But if your mind is truly well adjusted and balanced, even when you encounter really major problems, you can still definitely get through them. You can absolutely keep going onward and forward. At the very least, you can just survive. So I've always really believed that no matter how incredibly busy you might be, how truly tired you feel, or how you are doing, you must always keep your mindset always in check, always. If your mindset is always well adjusted, then indeed there are truly many, many things in this entire world can be easily and truly resolved, faced calmly and with composure, and accepted with true joy. So it's perfectly fine if you laugh heartily too. Now let's just continue with today's lesson. In yesterday's previous lesson, we mentioned that our cycle of rebirth is truly like a burning house. It is indeed extremely terrifying and very completely filled with suffering. The relentless fire of birth, aging, sickness, and death keeps burning continuously. The Tathagata has already completely left the burning house of the three realms of samsara. He diligently accumulated immense merit over countless lifetimes and eons, thereby eliminating all afflictions and the profound suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death. He has left the fire of the three realms. He dwells peacefully and serenely within the tranquil ancient forest. At that profound and auspicious time, the Buddha attained complete and perfect enlightenment. And the significant scene of turning the Dharma wheel at Deer Park is also very well known. Or, as we often say here, the Buddha had long since truly left the terrifying burning house that we spoke of the other day, a place of great suffering and impermanence. And he had already reached a state of complete and absolute purity, entirely free from any form of suffering, distress, or calamity whatsoever, a state of such profound and serene tranquility and true liberation, truly a state of ultimate peace, found within such a wonderfully quiet and truly joyful forest, nestled within such a peaceful and verdant woodland. Therefore, he's experiencing an overwhelming and boundless sense of extreme happiness and profound contentment. The Buddha wisely stated that, in the present era, this entire threefold world, with all its aspects, is actually under his complete jurisdiction. It truly and entirely belongs to him. Because as we mentioned the other day, according to the words of the old elder, this particular house actually and truly belongs to him. So, this intensely burning house of the three realms can in fact be accurately said to be entirely under his complete and absolute control. As for the vast world that the Buddha profoundly transforms and gently guides, the entire Saha world, which encompasses all existence, all the sentient beings residing within it are the profound responsibility of the Buddha. He wishes for them to be completely free from suffering and to attain lasting happiness, his cherished children, so to speak. The Buddha regards all sentient beings in the three realms, without any exception, with equal and deep compassion. He treats them all as if they were his own dear children. And now within this entire threefold world, whether it is birth, aging, sickness, and death, as we mentioned before, or the suffering of separation from loved ones, or the suffering of being together with those we resent, there are countless pains, karmic obstacles, and afflictions, all kinds of terrible calamities and devastating disasters. Only the Buddha alone can truly rely on his profound and selfless wisdom to compassionately save these suffering sentient beings. The true and ultimate way the Buddha can effectively liberate sentient beings is by diligently teaching the sacred Dharma and giving insightful discourses. Then allowing these sentient beings to accept it, and after accepting it, to practice on their own. Ultimately, they can eliminate all afflictions and attain liberation. Therefore, the Buddha is truly the ultimate protector. So within all the three realms of existence, no matter if we encounter temporary difficulties or adverse circumstances in life, or even the profound suffering of the entire endless cycle of samsara, through sincere heartfelt prayer, through unwavering faith in the compassionate Buddha, we can effectively dispel them completely. This is very important. However, nowadays, for many people, their true protectors, when they are young, they may think their parents are their protectors. However, as they grow older, this perception often changes. As they grow much older, it clearly seems that, for example, their beloved spouse or close family members, they constantly rely heavily on others to save them from all their daily suffering. They always completely depend on others to be the exact ones who solve their most difficult problems. In this way, both sides end up with a lot of suffering. Not only can they not save you,
But instead, they unfortunately bring each other even much more unnecessary suffering. As dedicated spiritual practitioners, we should always face this reality with a truly healthy mindset. As for ordinary worldly people, their perspective may differ significantly. Perhaps they have their own truly unique ways of dealing with it. I recently saw a rather fascinating post, supposedly written by a very well-known celebrity. She clearly stated that her mother's significant decision to proceed with the divorce was, in her considered opinion, very wise and well-founded. Why exactly did she articulate such a strong and definitive statement? Because her mother and her husband apparently possessed fundamentally different personalities and deeply ingrained habits. Her mother, with her gentle and caring nature, especially loved the peaceful activity of gardening and diligently growing a vibrant array of beautiful flowers. She meticulously cherished certain very special and significant days that were intimately related to her passion and her family. However, her father, her husband, seemed to possess a rather sloppy and unkempt demeanor. How should I delicately put it? A somewhat disorganized and untidy disposition. He couldn't even clearly remember the exact day they first met, not even a single detail. And he often forgot their wedding anniversary and her birthday as well. He couldn't readily recall many truly special, profoundly important, and genuinely blessed days throughout his entire life. So she was often unhappy because of this. And since her mother loved gardening, maybe it was something like that. I don't remember the details very clearly. And when she grew orchids, her father frequently liked to smoke, and the fine ashes would often fall into the beautiful flowers. Later, she deeply felt that if her life continued on in this particular way, it just absolutely wouldn't work out at all. So she ultimately chose to get a divorce, and then she left. Even though he was extremely rich, very powerful, quite handsome, and so on, the specific person she eventually found much later on in her life, in terms of looks and all that, wasn't particularly remarkable. But he was especially accommodating and remarkably considerate to her. For example, if she thoughtfully bought a beautiful new tablecloth, he would immediately get her a truly exquisite vase to perfectly go with it. If she bought a dress in a certain color, he would undoubtedly buy her an even more exquisite and perfectly fitting pair of shoes to beautifully match her attire. He was exceptionally attentive and thoughtful in countless ways, consistently treating her with the utmost care and adoration, truly like a cherished princess, and he always humbly acted as her devoted servant, anticipating her every need. It's said that this wasn't written by the celebrity herself, but by someone else. But anyway, I didn't look into it further. In any case, many people later felt, some believed that in a family, as a man, this particular approach is indeed the very best, that this is truly the most effective way to treat a woman. Subsequently, some individuals, especially certain men, began actively criticizing him, vehemently scolding him for his views. They said he was like a servant and that it was so painful for him that he was at her beck and call every day. Actually now, as I analyze this process, I truly feel that nowadays many lay family members often, after spending some time together, everyone's unique personality traits, individual habits, inherent tendencies and personal interests, including some deeply held values, are all distinctly different from one another. But generally, a lot of people tend to be petty. Well, what are they petty about? Why can't you really remember this very important date today? If you don't remember, it means you don't care about me. If that's truly the case, how can we possibly continue to go on together? Life is indeed so incredibly long. So nowadays, when many people engage in heated arguments, it really seems like there's no genuine or meaningful point to it at all. Why is it that you often don't care? For example, if you're not in the same place, you should definitely call me in the early morning, call me around noon, and call me in the late afternoon, please. And in the afternoon, call me before dinner, call me after dinner, call me before going to bed. And then if you don't call me first thing in the morning and so on, and I've heard that many families at home across the country are experiencing this situation. They have all kinds of arguments and suffering among themselves. Actually, in this case, especially what I'm talking about today, many of our valued listeners are also family people. I sincerely hope that for those with families, when it comes to truly major and significant issues, for example, important things like islands, serious disputes over territory, or similar profound disagreements, it's worth fighting over. But for small issues, fighting every single day like this really isn't good. I honestly don't know about their current situation. I don't really have any opinion on the content choices of that celebrity just now. As a monastic, I don't really have the authority to analyze these things. But overall, when it truly comes to the various aspects of everyday lay life, after all, being together is a kind of karmic connection. There shouldn't be such trivial matters that consume valuable time and energy. Perhaps one individual's personal habits are more focused on much bigger, more significant things in life, especially for many men who might prioritize their demanding careers, their work, or the crucial process of making substantial money and building financial security. They think as long as there's food and clothing and nothing major happens, every day there are all these trivial issues. How is it that it's like this every day? And for some women also, they might pay very special attention to even the smallest of things. So as a direct result, one person focuses on bigger goals, while the other focuses on very subtle details. When their goals are different like this, it often leads to many complex entanglements and significant troubles between people. As a direct result, the entire family becomes quite unhappy. When the family is unhappy, one's mindset may suffer. With a poor mindset, one's practice suffers, and without good practice, there can be no achievement. Our true protector is actually the Buddha. But nowadays, many people, except for some monastics, whose lives are relatively free and truly carefree, many people, in fact, if they are not entangled in such intricate networks, everyone could simply focus on their own spiritual practice, and that would be perfectly fine. But many people actually need to genuinely rely on each other for support and sustenance. In the process of relying on others, we should have a heart of tolerance. With this, life can be very joyful. Otherwise, constantly bargaining and endlessly haggling over prices is also a very painful experience. Therefore, I think that when I read some insightful articles and when I observe certain specific things, including various compelling excerpts, actually what many people are primarily focusing on nowadays is, and what many people used to focus on quite extensively before, for example, significant aspects of their daily existence, such as their clothing and their living conditions, because life was indeed quite difficult back then. Nowadays, many individuals may not pay as much attention to these particular aspects and are not particularly concerned about them. What really matters is the values between people. These significant values are now profoundly influenced by modern television and various forms of media, and in fact many of the core values shaped by contemporary television and the broader media landscape have already become part of our culture. Our culture has truly indeed turned into our habits. Within our habits, there are things like arguing and fighting that shouldn't happen, but there's absolutely nothing at all we can possibly do about it because your entire life has already become this way. So as practitioners, there are things we simply can't control for others. But as practitioners, especially since the vast majority of our current audience members are indeed lay people, as lay people, my considered and personal view is that you should earn money when it's time to earn money and live your life when it's time to live your life. Whatever needs to be done should be done. But in daily life, we should cultivate a sense of tolerance. If others truly can't handle certain things, as Buddhists, we should be even stronger and find effective ways to cope with challenges. Although there may be some suffering, if we diligently use the profound methods of Buddhist practice to adjust ourselves, life should actually be quite joyful and fulfilling. This is what I just mentioned. The Buddha is the only protector, the only one in the three realms. At that time, the Buddha said, "Although I admonish these disciples who are truly like my own beloved children, they do not accept it. They do not have faith. The primary reason they do not have faith is because they lack understanding and true comprehension. This is primarily because of their strong and unwavering attachment to the desires of the desire realm. Their craving for the defilements of the desire realm, in other words, their defiled minds, is extremely, extremely deep. Because of this, no matter how hard I try to admonish them, it proves to be quite challenging. Sometimes when people are especially attached, no matter what other people might say, even if their words are very profound and deeply insightful, it probably won't work out at all in the end. For example, if someone especially loves listening to music, even if there are other excellent teachings nearby, when you hear a piece of music, your mind is naturally and effortlessly drawn to it. So our craving and attachment, in fact people, especially us sentient beings in this desire realm, lose much of our happiness and inner peace because of our many desires. The Sutra of Mindfulness of the True Dharma says, because of craving and desire, this person finds no happiness day or night. Because of craving and desire, this person finds no happiness day or night, unable to find joy either during the day or at night. If we can let go of this kind of craving, we might actually live quite comfortably and very well, no matter what the circumstances, whether we are in the mountains or residing in the bustling city, or even among crowds of people, life can be very good. The other day I saw Dharma friends, 7 or 8 people living together, yet some of them are still living very happily, very well. They feel that this is a form of practice, a kind of enjoyment, and they live very well. So sometimes it's our own inherent selfishness, our own deep-seated greed and desire. Because of his greed and desire, he finds no happiness day or night. It's because of craving and desire. During the day, we often feel quite uncomfortable. No matter who we see, we truly feel a sense of unease. And then at night, we can't sleep well either. So for those of us who are able to sleep well at night, it clearly shows that their level of spiritual practice and dedication is quite remarkably good.
Otherwise, for those individuals who have not diligently practiced at all, many Westerners, for example, often have to take a significant amount of sleeping pills. This is because when the Buddha first taught these profound principles, people were deeply attached to the various desires of the three realms. Just like those energetic children mentioned earlier, they were especially playful and easily distracted by worldly pleasures and fleeting enjoyments. So, no matter how diligently the father tried to explain, it was ultimately of no avail. Therefore, he had no other choice but to skillfully employ certain expedient means to effectively teach the profound three vehicles, namely Śrāvaka, Pratyekabuddha, and the Supreme Buddha. This was done so that these playful beings, who were dwelling within the three realms, would understand the suffering of samsara, the suffering of the three realms. Then he continuously taught them the 84,000 Dharma doors. What do the 84,000 Dharma doors mainly teach? They teach the path beyond the world to transcend this world. One should not remain endlessly immersed in worldly existence. If you remain immersed, you will never attain liberation. This kind of suffering is truly inconceivable. So he had already taught them the profound path of liberation. This path of liberation is indeed very important in Buddhism. I sincerely hope that in the ongoing process of practice for our dedicated lay practitioners, they also cultivate a mind-seeking liberation. When will I attain liberation from the three realms? I hope to attain liberation, this kind of aspiration. And for some of our Dharma teachers and counselors, when teaching and expounding the profound Dharma, they should also teach some practical methods of liberation. If we don't talk about true liberation and just spend all day discussing superficial things like physical health and general wellness, how to effectively lose weight, how to truly look beautiful, how to perfectly style our hair, and other such worldly concerns, these things really don't need to be explained by Dharma teachers. Sometimes, if you look at advertisements, there are even more topics and they are produced better than we could do. So what we should really talk about very carefully here is, it should be exactly what is clearly taught in the famous ancient 400 verses, right? The sacred and highly revered 400 verses text explicitly says, "What profound and deep teaching did the most compassionate one give that leads to true liberation? Whoever does not truly value this precious wisdom is clearly not wise." What the enlightened Buddha taught in the very end is ultimately about attaining liberation from the cycle of rebirth within the three realms. If any of us do not value this, then it shows that we are not truly wise. Nowadays, some people don't talk about liberation and think of themselves as very wise. Now, I truly have more and more devoted disciples, including groups and communities in Malaysia and Taiwan, and also in the vibrant city-state of Singapore. My devoted disciples are steadily increasing day by day, and their numbers are growing significantly. Furthermore, I also deeply feel and truly believe that my profound Dharma might be especially extraordinary and remarkably unique. But if we do not talk about liberation, then no matter how many disciples there are, it is just as Longchenpa said in Resting in the Nature of Mind, having as many followers as insects is still useless. So some people clearly think that by simply teaching some very simple humanistic Buddhism today, they are doing something truly remarkable and quite important. And there is definitely a kind of very subtle arrogance in that particular attitude, whether in daily speech or in their actual action. It is best for a person to have no arrogance. This also applies to people who are wealthy. It is best to have no arrogance. The same goes for those who are wise. It is best to have no arrogance. And for those who are good-looking, it is truly best to have absolutely no arrogance whatsoever. If you are not arrogant at all, you will undoubtedly look even better and more appealing. The same goes for wealthy people. If you are not arrogant, then you will appear even more prosperous. Not only will you be materially wealthy on the outside, but your heart will also be richer. Otherwise, some wealthy people can be extremely arrogant. But if you are arrogant like that, even though you may have a lot of material wealth on the outside, isn't your true inner spiritual wealth actually a bit lacking and insufficient? That's exactly why some people naturally start to have serious doubts about this. So, what is the next topic that we are going to discuss? Well, for instance, if we take a closer look at the children who are living within the three realms, we can find a very good example. They should have a resolve, a determination to attain something. What is it that they are determined to attain? It is the wisdom that fully comprehends the past, present and future, the knowledge of the three times, the three insights, as well as the 6 supernatural powers, and also the attainments of the Śrāvaka Pratyekabuddha, all the way up to the stage of non-retrogression. Because when we talk about such supramundane dharma, the supramundane teachings, all disciples, all sentient beings, are determined to attain them. So, what is it precisely that they are determined to attain? It is, in fact, both the worldly and the supramundane fruits and accomplishments of the Śrāvaka, the Pratyekabuddha, and the non-retrogressing Bodhisattva. The Buddha then spoke to his disciple Shariputra, saying, "You, Shariputra, for the sake of sentient beings," he told Shariputra and the other sentient beings, that it is for the sake of sentient beings that I do this. In fact, it is by relying on parables, causes and conditions, and various methods that I first teach the three vehicles, and ultimately reveal the one supreme vehicle. So if it is indeed the case that you are able to fully and willingly accept this, so what is it that you will ultimately attain in the future? You will attain the enlightened path of the Buddha and the profound wisdom of the Buddha. This means that in the future you will indeed gain the complete wisdom of the Buddha. This becomes possible if we act in accordance with the Buddha's valuable instructions. Or, as it is clearly stated within the Lotus Sutra, if we follow these precious skillful means with great diligence consistently, we will temporarily obtain the true happiness and benefit of both humans and gods, and ultimately attain the complete fruition of the Buddha's omniscient wisdom perfectly. But if we do not act as the Buddha has taught us, you will attain neither of these. We very often talk about benefit and happiness, right? The important philosophical text, Ornament of the Middle Way, also provides a detailed discussion of higher rebirth and definite goodness. Essentially, these concepts refer to the temporary benefits that are available to both humans and gods, and ultimately attaining the bliss of omniscient wisdom. This point as well should be in the Mahavaipulya Mahasamnipata Sutra, not the Buddha. However, Bodhisattva Asvaghosha also mentioned this very point in the Mahavaipulya Mahasamnipata Sutra. In this important scripture, the Mahavaipulya Mahasamnipata Sutra says, "If one completely abandons the profound teachings of the Buddha, one will surely lose the benefits of humans and gods, as well as the great nirvana, which is the unsurpassed supreme bliss." Therefore, if we abandon the precious teachings spoken by the Buddha, then what are the things that such a person will definitely lose? The benefits of humans and gods, and all great nirvana, the supreme, profound, and foremost happiness, the great bliss of the supramundane. That is why, in the scriptures and treatises, we often see the phrase benefiting and bringing happiness to sentient beings. As for the phrase benefiting and bringing happiness to sentient beings, it means allowing sentient beings to gain temporary benefit and ultimately attain happiness. Therefore, benefit and happiness are explained separately in the Mahavaipulya Mahasamnipata Sutra. In this context, benefit refers to the happiness of both humans and gods, while happiness refers to the ultimate great bliss that arises from the Buddha's own very profound wisdom. So here too it is said that the Buddha then told Shariputra that if sentient beings are able to gain such profound faith and understanding, they will ultimately become Buddhas as well. Thus the vehicle that leads to Buddhahood is expounded. In actual fact, it is subtle, pure, and is also considered supreme. From the perspective of the world, it should be said to be unsurpassed. Throughout the entire Trichiliacosm, when we carefully begin to expound upon the truly subtle and profound Mahayana vehicle, it should be said to be extremely pure. Among all the teachings, this one is uniquely pure, and it is truly supreme. In the world it remains truly incomparable. Therefore all of the Buddhas are also particularly joyful and deeply delighted by this teaching. All sentient beings also find it to be worthy of praise. Therefore such a vehicle certainly deserves to be both offered to and venerated. With the Mahayana Sutra of the Lotus Flower of the Wonderful Dharma as the main focus, we should always revere, offer to, and circumambulate all Dharma teachings that expound the profound principles of the Mahayana. We often say that the Sutra of the Lotus Flower of the Wonderful Dharma and some other scriptures, wherever we go, we should carry them with us. As dedicated practitioners, we should always make it a point to carry some essential scriptures and treatises with us. This is also very important. Why is it so? It truly possesses inconceivable merit and spiritual power that is beyond ordinary comprehension. Therefore, regarding Mahayana Buddhism, whether we are able to teach it to others or contemplate its meaning, or if we are able to truly uphold it in our daily conduct, or even if we are able to recite it word for word from memory, all of these endeavors are considered to be extremely beneficial and profoundly meaningful for us in our lives. Furthermore, it is clearly stated in the revered scripture called the Sutra of Questions by Brahma King Sikhin, which imparts the following profound teaching. For a span of time extending over countless immeasurable eons, the vast and boundless merits accumulated by the great Mahayana tradition, as well as the merits of all devoted practitioners who earnestly follow and walk this noble path, can never, under any circumstances, be fully exhausted or depleted. This means that throughout these endless ages, the positive potential generated by the Mahayana teachings and by those who put them into practice remains an inexhaustible treasure. The merit of this is truly inconceivable. To put it in other words, it is absolutely inexhaustible. Throughout countless eons, if we speak about or study the merits of Mahayana Buddhism, or if we expound on the merits of Mahayana Buddhism, or those who have already generated bodhicitta, who are already riding the Mahayana, riding this vehicle, as we mentioned the other day, people would get around by riding in various vehicles like the goat cart, the sturdy ox cart, and the graceful deer cart. In addition to those, there was the ever-popular horse cart. And we can't forget the human-powered cart. You know, it's true that in ancient times, carts pulled by people were a very common sight. The merit of this is immense. Therefore, we also hope to study Mahayana Buddhism. Of course, studying Mahayana Buddhism is truly an inconceivable karmic connection. Only with such fortune do we have this opportunity. Once you have this, you should never turn back for the rest of your life. No matter what you might encounter in your day-to-day life, it is very important that you do not easily abandon Mahayana Buddhism or give up studying the Mahayana scriptures. If you do so, then truly, I have always felt that such people are being extremely ignorant and exceptionally foolish. As just mentioned, if someone does not value this, it is clear they are not wise. Aryadeva also said the same thing. Anyone who does not value such profound teachings is clearly a fool. In that case, some people might. I once had the opportunity to meet a person who was from Canada. He was originally from the country of China, but had later decided to immigrate and make Canada his home. This was quite a few years ago. At that time, I was working on Waves of Wisdom, and he said, "In some of your scriptures, it is said that, apart from Mahayana Buddhism, it seems that others are not considered wise." He didn't quite agree with this kind of statement. I said that no matter what particular teaching is being discussed, every teaching has its own characteristics. In our Vajrayana tradition, regarding the Kalachakra Tantra, it is said that those who do not study it do not achieve great accomplishments. Similarly, for the Guhya Samaja Tantra and also for the Supreme Dzogchen in the Kunjat Gyalpo Tantra, there are such statements as well. The same goes for when we talk about Madhyamaka and Yogacara. So every sentient being has a different capacity. For some people, indeed, without this teaching, there is nothing that can be done for them. Therefore, studying the Mahayana, we talk about the merits of the Mahayana. When discussing the Lotus Sutra, we also talk about the merits of the Lotus Sutra. Some others may not like this, may not feel happy about it. In such cases, there's nothing that can be done. Indeed, this particular Dharma does truly possess these wonderful merits. Next, it is said that all the countless billions of merits, including the Buddha's 10 powers, the 8 liberations, and the 4 dhyanas, as well as various kinds of wisdom, meditative concentrations, and the 5 wisdoms, and also the rest of the Buddha's qualities, including the 18 unique attributes and so on, all these merits can only be attained through the profound teachings of the Mahayana. By relying on the Mahayana, we disciples can continue to practice day and night, persisting year after year, or even maintaining our efforts over countless lifetimes and immeasurable eons in order to achieve these results. Enjoy and make use of it for a long time, and for a long time be together with all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, as well as the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, all riding together in this precious vehicle, all the way to the seat of complete enlightenment. So this means that everyone present here with us has already boarded the truly wondrous Mahayana vehicle, and we are all now sitting together in the most precious Mahayana carriage. Therefore, we should gladly join together with so many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and so many others, though perhaps there are no Buddhas, since the Buddha himself has already attained enlightenment. all the Bodhisattvas, Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, and all of us who have generated the Mahayana Bodhicitta are filled with Dharma joy day and night, 6 times a day. So in this way, on the one hand, it is important for us to feel genuinely and truly happy with ourselves, even though samsara is full of suffering, and we are born in such a degenerate age in a defiled world. But at this very particular moment, it just so happens that an event unfolds, whether by coincidence or not. It's no coincidence. The reasons will be explained. So if the especially excellent causes and conditions from our past lives have come together, then in this life we encounter the Mahayana Dharma. Therefore, with this new understanding, we have absolutely no reason not to practice diligently. When you are engaged in your practice, I sincerely hope that everyone, in all 4 of the fundamental postures, will often either spend time in sincere prayer to the Buddha or recite passages from the Holy Scriptures. When our revered Guru was still alive, he often said, we should contemplate some teachings of the ultimate truth, such as the profound states found in Madhyamaka and Vajrayana teachings. But on the other hand, it is also important for us to engage in spiritual practices such as recitation and prostrations, and accumulate some worldly virtues. In this way, if one aspect is not done well, for example, if our meditation or wisdom regarding the ultimate truth is not well developed, we have not abandoned the accumulation of worldly virtues. Having both of them is certainly very secure. Therefore, while we are diligently engaged in our spiritual practices, it is also crucial that we do not forget to perform our daily recitations. This aspect of our practice is of great importance as well. It is my sincere hope that many of our fellow Dharma friends, throughout the course of your daily lives, you will always contemplate the Buddha or engage in some form of spiritual practice. In particular, I feel that praying to the Buddha, the Guru, and the Yidam is extremely important. It is also a point mentioned in the Avatamsaka Sutra. The Avatamsaka Sutra, a Mahayana Buddhist scripture, says, in the 4 bodily postures, which refers to all our daily activities, we should contemplate the profound virtues of the Buddha. This means reflecting on his boundless compassion and perfect wisdom. This practice should be maintained day and night, never cease. The sutra explains this is pure and sublime karma, a wholesome action that purifies the mind and leads to spiritual progress. Sometimes when there's nothing external to focus on, I recite this passage from memory. So it's important not to place all your hopes on external things because they are impermanent, right? That is precisely why I mentioned the teaching. In the 4 bodily postures, you should always contemplate the profound virtues of the Buddha. This means that throughout your daily activities, whether you are walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, your mind should remain engaged in this contemplation. You should contemplate the profound virtues of the Buddha, contemplate the Buddha's deep virtues. So when should we contemplate the Buddha's profound virtues? Day and night never cease, meaning it happens constantly, without interruption, day and night. The text says, this is pure and sublime karma. This, in fact, is the most sublime and genuinely pure karma. Therefore, it is very important for us to create purer and more subtle karma every single day. Even when you get up in the morning, you should pray to Shakyamuni Buddha and Amitabha Buddha. At night before going to sleep, you should also make it a point to pray. This practice is indeed something that is extremely, and I must repeat, extremely important. So when we take the time to contemplate pure karma and actively perform such virtuous deeds, this is what we just talked about. You understand this, right? As for our vehicle, in fact, if we are talking about the Mahayana, there are countless treasures within it. Whether or not we choose to uncover these treasures depends on us. Ultimately, whether we are genuinely willing to accept them is a matter of the utmost importance. Oh dear, these people can't even sit through a single class. So many left in the middle. As for these newcomers, should we even let them in next time? Maybe we shouldn't allow any of the new people in. Otherwise they find it impossible to sit still for even a single hour. It is a truly and genuinely pitiful situation. They can't even sit still for 1 hour. After sitting down for a short while, they simply get up and leave the room again. Therefore, in the future, if you want to enter this particular class, it will be a requirement for you to sign in, and you certainly can't just leave in the middle of the session. Maybe we should consider putting something at the door to manage this, right? At the very least, they should listen for at least an hour. Otherwise, you shouldn't let them in, because there's truly nothing for them to see. I actually didn't want to say this, but today as well, as for those tourists, well, how should I put it? They just want to meet some lama, get a quick blessing or something along those lines. But then, when it comes to the actual substance, they can't understand and they don't really want to listen either. It's a sad fact that nowadays, many sentient beings are like this, let alone the much more involved process of actually practicing. They can't even manage to sit through the entirety of a single class. So from this point forward, if someone gets up to leave, I would appreciate it if they explained the specific reason for their departure. In our next class, we'll turn to a very important topic for understanding our community by exploring the different roles and experiences of our members. The main question we'll be asking is, what are the key differences between a newcomer who is just beginning their journey here and a resident lay practitioner, one of the dedicated individuals who has made a long-term commitment to living and practicing with us? You see, when people are constantly coming and going in and out of the room like this, my train of thought just gets completely interrupted. Now, even when I try, I find that I can't pick it up again. It's a deeply frustrating experience, almost exactly like a sudden power outage happening right in the middle of an important task. I understand that maybe some of you still want to leave, and I want to assure you that's perfectly fine. If you feel you want to go, please feel free to just leave now. I'll pause for a moment to allow for that. For those of you who find that you really can't sit still, let me just do a quick check. Is there anyone still here with me? It looks like we have a little more than 20 minutes left. I'm hoping some of you are still with me, and if that's the case, I'll go ahead and continue on. So please, I'll need your full attention for this next part, as it's quite important. Because of this karmic connection, if we pray with deep reverence to all of the worlds in all 10 directions, apart from the supreme, profound, and subtle Mahayana Buddhist teachings, there is truly and absolutely nothing that is more supreme. Unless it's some expedient methods taught by the Buddha, those are not included here. As we have already discussed, the Mahayana teachings are without a doubt truly special. Whatever it is you wish for, you will be able to obtain it there. So, as I mentioned earlier, among the 4 dignified comportments in Mahayana Buddhism, contemplate the Buddha's qualities, recite the Buddha's name, or chant certain mantras. In the past, our highly revered teacher, the wish-fulfilling jewel, required us to recite at least 100 million mantras of the Yidam in a single lifetime, which should be achievable. He often said this, so each of us should do our very best to practice such teachings. This is truly a matter of great importance. For this very reason, even if we were to seek long throughout all of the 10 directions, there is nothing more supreme than the Mahayana teachings. At that time, the Buddha told Shariputra, "You all are truly my cherished disciples. I am like your father in the cycle of existence within the 3 realms. Throughout countless lifetimes and eons, and across innumerable kalpas, while within the cycle of samsara, you have been relentlessly tormented by all manner of suffering, and have been profoundly burned by them as a result. Now I am also seeking ways to help you attain liberation from the cycle of existence in the 3 realms, trying to find a way for you to be freed." The Sutra of Protecting the Nation also mentions this. The Buddha, out of compassion, expounded the Dharma so that sentient beings could gain realization. Sentient beings attain liberation by hearing the Dharma. There is a specific line in liberation through hearing the Dharma. We actually have no other methods. Some Dharma teachers go out to spread the Dharma and benefit sentient beings. So how do they propagate the Dharma? They just distribute some nectar pills or liberation pills. Some, when they go out to teach, carry a big bag of nectar pills with them. Actually giving them these nectar pills is also fine. But if there's no sugar in them, people might not even like them. So it's still about teaching the Dharma, liberation through hearing the Dharma. This is from the Dharan Sutra for Protecting the Nation. The Buddha, out of compassion, awakened sentient beings, mainly through liberation by hearing the Dharma. Even in the Buddha's time, very few attained liberation through his physical or miraculous powers. So later on, whether in India, Tibet, or China, wherever it was, great monks and virtuous masters guided sentient beings. The method was teaching and expounding the Dharma. Even today, if we truly want to awaken many people from their state of confusion, it also relies on education. If there were no education, human beings as a whole would be no different from animals. In the very same way, if we were to go deeper without the Buddha's wisdom-based education, we humans would also be just like animals. Ordinary people outside of the human world cannot transcend the three realms. Therefore, listening to and hearing the Dharma is very important. Some of our esteemed Dharma teachers are very enthusiastic about giving profound teachings and explaining the Dharma. No matter what, I've also heard that some counselors, even now there are some counselors in the Institute. There are also some assistant Dharma teachers who are asked to give talks. On the side, I also inquire and gather information through different channels. From people at higher, middle, and grassroots levels, I try to understand whether these people are interested in listening to the Dharma and whether they are enthusiastic about teaching it. Some say this Dharma teacher, no matter what, whether they find disciples or not, or even if they can't find any disciples at all, it's very likely that they would still teach the Dharma in an empty room. So some people are truly enthusiastic about listening to and teaching the Dharma. But there are some, even though they teach quite well, they get sick from time to time or sometimes suffer from mental distress. This and that, many things end up delaying them. So sometimes they may not have a strong interest in teaching the Dharma. This is also probably related to our past lives to some extent. But I still hope that everyone understands that it is very important to benefit sentient beings through the Dharma. Otherwise, some of us wouldn't even know what we should rely on in order to attain liberation. This is something that everyone should carefully and thoroughly analyze. The Buddha, the enlightened one, profoundly stated, "Although I have diligently taught you," referring to the profound teachings of the Śrāvaka, which encompass the complete extinction of suffering and the attainment of nirvana, "this is merely your cessation, which is merely a departure from the continuous cycle of birth and death, is not to be mistaken for ultimate liberation. Being in a state of cessation, or what is more precisely termed the absorption of cessation, is actually not the true and complete nirvana. Therefore today I have meticulously presented to you the profound and unique wisdom of the Buddha, offering insights that transcend ordinary understanding. In this particular way, if within such a dedicated group of individuals, there are indeed some bodhisattvas who can wholeheartedly listen, deeply understand, and sincerely receive the profound and invaluable teachings. This is the true ultimate realization of the Buddha. It is through skillful means that all Buddhas and world-honored ones temporarily taught the Dharma of the three vehicles to sentient beings. All the beings transformed are bodhisattvas. What the Buddha ultimately cultivates are not Śrāvakas, not Pratyekabuddhas, nor are they ordinary worldly people like us. The ultimate purpose of the definitive sutras, as mentioned many times before, what exactly is the purpose of the Buddha turning the wheel of Dharma? It is to inspire us to give rise to bodhicitta and ultimately truly become Mahayana Bodhisattvas. If everyone here gives rise to bodhicitta, it means we have truly become beings transformed by Buddha, beings transformed by Lotus Sutra. If some people previously studied Mahayana Buddhism, but later gradually shifted to studying the Hinayana or entered into it. Didn't I mention some time ago that some people actually started out in Vajrayana, coming down from above, and they don't even need empowerment, just direct pointing. Nowadays, many people abroad like direct pointing to the nature of mind, and many people overseas also don't like empowerments, let alone preliminary practices. I once met a Rinpoche who said, "Rinpoche, the only method I currently have available is to directly point out the very nature of mind to them. Only after they recognize the nature of mind do they begin to practice the preliminaries, because some of them still really like teachings on Madhyamaka, including some teachings on the primordial purity of Dzogchen. So if you tell them right from the start, 'Oh, you need to do 100,000 prostrations,' then they simply don't want to get involved at all. So those Rinpoches at the beginning would explain to them that the mind neither comes nor goes, and if the mind abides in luminosity and emptiness, many Westerners especially like this. They just sit there like that, and as soon as they have a slight experience or a bit of a feeling, then the teachers would explain further to them. I told them, if you've already truly recognized the actual nature of mind completely, then there's really no urgent need to practice the basic preliminaries anymore, right? So the spiritual beings being carefully taught here are also genuine advanced bodhisattvas. But if some ordinary people have only a very little wisdom and are still very deeply attached to material worldly things, this can be accurately called the noble truth of suffering. So what exactly is this fundamental truth of suffering? It means being especially attached to worldly things and experiencing all kinds of suffering, including the suffering of change, the suffering of suffering, and pervasive suffering, all tormenting them. If these sentient beings receive the Dharma teaching of the truth of suffering as taught by the Buddha, they will feel a kind of unprecedented joy in their hearts, because the turning of the Dharma wheel of the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha is actually truly without difference. It is not in any way different from the actual absolute truth. There is a Buddhist scripture that says, In the significant treatise on the Sutra of the Buddha's final teachings, it is stated, "The moon could conceivably be made hot, and the sun could astonishingly be made cold. But the fundamental Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha cannot possibly be made otherwise. The Four Noble Truths, as taught by the Buddha, cannot possibly become something different from their original profound meaning." It seems the title of that sutra is very short, yet its content holds immense wisdom. And it is a purely hypothetical statement. The moon could very well become something quite hot. The moon could be made hot. The sun could become cold, and the moon could become hot. This is a hypothetical statement, right? But the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha cannot be made otherwise. The Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha cannot possibly become something else. What this means is, for example, the truth of suffering is just the truth of suffering. The Buddha said, this is suffering. So suffering cannot become happiness nor cessation. Truth of origin is just truth of origin, the cause of karma and afflictions. It cannot become the truth of cessation. The same goes for the truth of the path and the truth of cessation. They are distinct from each other. The path is the path. In the ultimate reality, in the realm of truth, the suffering in our lives is suffering. Once suffering is eliminated, there will be happiness. This is also precisely how the Four Noble Truths are explained. This is talking about the fundamental truth of suffering. If some sentient beings do not truly understand the true nature of suffering and are still deeply attached to the very causes of suffering, then they may continue to experience hardship and cannot let go of them even temporarily at any moment. For this reason, the Buddha skillfully said the root of all suffering is craving and desire. As said in the Bodhisattva, sentient beings wish to eliminate suffering, yet act in ways that create its causes. Although sentient beings very much want to be free from suffering, in reality they become attached to the causes of suffering, constantly pursuing them, and are unable to help themselves. Like an enemy, they truly destroy their own happiness. This particular section is called the profound truth of the origin of suffering. Then, if we effectively eliminate craving and all desire, all suffering will have absolutely nothing to rely upon. The complete cessation of such suffering is called the Third Noble Truth, also known as the truth of cessation. In order to truly realize and effectively bring about the profound truth of cessation, we need to diligently practice the Noble Path. The dedicated practice of this path is in essence the very embodiment of the truth of the path itself. By conscientiously following this sacred path, we progressively distance ourselves from all the intricate and burdensome bonds of suffering, and ultimately attain a state of genuine and lasting true liberation. As for this kind of liberation, it can also be attained through our practice, through the pure conduct of brahmacharya. It is indeed attainable. I think this profound statement is indeed from the Mahayana Sutra. The Mahayana Sutra clearly states, "My birth has come to its ultimate end. The pure conduct has been firmly established. What needed to be fully done has been accomplished, and there will be no further becoming. In this life, through practice, everything has already been completed." This is mainly achieved by relying on the pure conduct of brahmacharya. The great tasks I was supposed to accomplish have already been done. So there are no worries or concerns for the future. There will be no more rebirth in the cycle of samsara within the three realms. It also seems to be quite popular in the Chinese Buddhist community. I'm not sure where exactly it's mentioned. The meaning is that in this life, we abandon the crown of the head, as stated in the preliminary practices. In this life, through our practice, it is truly best to completely cut off the very root of all worldly desire, or rather, the fundamental root of all bondage. This is also very important, especially for some of the venerable monastics here among us. We should truly do our utmost best to completely sever the very root of our cyclical samsaric existence. Although you have now chosen this spiritual path, it is indeed so. Perhaps you are feeling very happy and content right now at this very moment in your heart. But in this very life, do not fall back into the dreadful pit of fire. Otherwise, it will be even more terrifying and indeed unbearable. Therefore, everyone should diligently uphold pure precepts. By relying on such pure precepts and truly complete renunciation in this present life, samsara can already be brought to an end. The great matters that should be accomplished in this lifetime for you should already have been done. Even if you do not possess great wisdom in your diligent study, deep contemplation, and consistent practice, you can still achieve much. But if you yourself become a truly genuine and consistent practitioner, both inside and out, then your life becomes truly meaningful and profoundly purposeful as such a dedicated practitioner. Therefore, the attainment of liberation is actually very important and holds immense significance as well. The Buddha, the enlightened one, said, "If people truly wonder and seek to understand what liberation is, it is to be completely free from all forms of delusive thoughts and binding attachments. This is truly a profound liberation. This is what is generally believed within the Hinayana tradition. However, in reality, this does not truly count as genuine liberation. Because if you are only free from just one attachment or a single delusion, it still does not truly count as true liberation. The Buddha said that such a person has not truly attained nirvana. True nirvana is actually attaining the unsurpassed path. It is the profound Mahayana wisdom of non-self that is indeed the true and ultimate path to complete and genuine liberation. The Buddha himself said, "I do not wish for these sentient beings to remain temporarily in this kind of actual liberation." Because the Buddha said, "I am the Dharma king of the three realms, and I wish for these sentient beings to attain true happiness in the true freedom of the Dharma." Therefore, the main reason the Buddha manifested into this world, was actually also this profound truth. Why did the Buddha appear in this world? It was mainly and primarily to benefit all sentient beings and to teach the truly inconceivable Dharma. Here it clearly states, "I am the Dharma king," indicating his supreme spiritual authority. The Buddha is called the Dharma king. And in our world as well, those who are truly virtuous and have attained freedom through the Dharma can also be called Dharma kings. Otherwise, nowadays, this one is called Dharma king, that one is also called Dharma king. Having too many kings is not a good thing either. The Maharatnakuta Sutra explicitly states, "In countless, truly boundless worlds, the profound and inconceivable Dharma is taught." In countless, truly boundless worlds, the profoundly inconceivable Dharma is being expounded and proclaimed. The Maharatnakuta Sutra says, "The seed of the three jewels is never cut off, and thus one becomes the Dharma king." So what is a Dharma king? In fact, he is the true Dharma king. The Buddha can also be called the Dharma king too. The title of Dharma king is found in Maharatnakuta Sutra. Everyone should be aware of this as well. Some people say the title of Dharma king cannot be used is for a country's Karmapa was the Dharma king. Others cannot be called Dharma king, but that's not necessarily the case. Because if in countless boundless worlds one expounds the inconceivable Dharma and has not severed the seed of the three jewels, the Buddha also said that such a person can be called a Dharma king. So among us as well, if someone wants to be a Dharma king themselves, that's also possible. If these three conditions are met, then it is possible. The first is in countless boundless worlds. The second, the next two should be considered together. In countless worlds you have expounded inconceivable Dharma, Mahayana Buddhism, and you have not severed the precious and invaluable seed of the three jewels. Such a truly virtuous and righteous person can be rightfully regarded as a Dharma king. The Buddha told Shariputra, "The entire Mahayana Dharma seal that I now teach is carefully expounded for the great benefit of all sentient beings in the entire world today. Do not recklessly spread this precious sacred teaching in many different inappropriate places." There are several very different ways to properly interpret this important phrase, so please pay very careful attention to that matter. According to the Chinese translations of Buddhist scriptures, including the supplementary chapter of the Lotus Sutra and the commentary on the Lotus Sutra, all of these state that the Buddha told Shariputra that the Dharma which I teach is truly for the ultimate benefit of all sentient beings. In all sorts of other places, please do not spread it carelessly or without proper consideration. This is the same as with the esoteric teachings. The commentary on the Lotus Sutra says, "Forcing evil people to listen will cause them to fall into suffering. If you forcefully explain it to evil people, they will fall into degeneration. For some evil people, you should not forcefully tell them these teachings, otherwise they won't be able to accept it and will fall into degeneration." What they truly mean to convey is that in very large public gatherings, you really shouldn't casually expound upon these teachings. That truly seems to be the intended meaning here in this particular context. That's what it means in the Tibetan version as well. So I truly feel that the content in the Tibetan version flows much more smoothly and naturally with what follows next. It aligns better with the explanations that come next. Of course, if we explain it this way, in tomorrow's class, we will talk a lot about those who slander or misunderstand the Lotus Sutra and how these people end up falling into hell. This will be discussed in detail. So if you were to teach profound Dharma to those individuals who are truly not suitable vessels, some people might indeed become quite afraid. The Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra says, "The power and virtue of prajna can move two kinds of people. Those without wisdom become fearful, while those with wisdom rejoice." The 400 verses also says, "The principle of non-self should not be explained carelessly. Otherwise, one type of person will tend toward lower realms, while another will move toward nirvana." This is said in the same way. So it's also acceptable for us to explain it in another way. For example, the method of explanation used in Han Chinese Buddhism. In Han Chinese Buddhism, perhaps most explanations are basically like this. But how is it explained in Tibetan? In Tibetan, it says, Shariputra, this dharma sound that I am teaching, for the profound benefit of all sentient beings, I solemnly proclaim this vital message to the people of the entire world. If you earnestly wish to teach it in various different places, regarding the phrase, do not teach it carelessly, I wonder if it means do not forget to teach it, as in don't forget to proclaim it. In places where the conditions are right, I hope you will teach it more often. It seems that in the Tibetan version there is such an interpretation. If we explain it this way, how can we explain the following parts? The Buddha told Shariputra, in different places you should teach them well. If there are people genuinely willing to listen, and during the teaching, if they don't simply get up and leave, then you can confidently start teaching them. If some listeners rejoice and respectfully place the text on their heads, listening, this Lotus Sutra is wonderful, and they receive the Dharma text on their heads. Placing the sutra on one's head is also found in many Buddhist traditions, including Tibetan Buddhism. After you receive it, Lama Chen, you simply place it on the very top of your own head. This is a respectful attitude, receiving it on the crown of your head. Rejoicing means to feel joy after hearing it. Such a person is called avaivartika. Avaivartika means a bodhisattva who never regresses. This means that in the future this person will not regress in the cycle of samsara. Some call this bestowing a prophecy. If it's about bestowing a prophecy, I can also do that. If you rejoice in and respectfully place the Lotus Sutra on your head, you become an avaivartika. Avaivartika is another term found in the Amitabha Sutra. It means one who does not regress. So if some of you insist on receiving a prophecy, just place the Lotus Sutra on your head. I say you are a non-retrogressing bodhisattva. If there are those who have faith and accept it, if some people truly and really have faith in the Lotus Sutra, then this person has already encountered Buddhas of the past and has shown them due respect and made offerings to them. It is precisely because of this very reason that they are able to hear this profound Dharma. So for those of us present here today, I firmly believe that all of you should. One reason is that we are listening to the Dharma together, which is due to such karmic connections. One is that we are able to hear the Lotus Sutra. In fact, in past lifetimes, we have also relied upon and made offerings to the Buddha, discussing 7 treasuries, we mentioned, that in Vajrayana we received such blessings from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For example, after receiving the blessings and protection of Samantabhadra Tathagata, we encounter it in this life. The Lotus Sutra is the same. Take Shariputra, or the Buddha himself, and other virtuous teachers well. If, after hearing the teachings, one has faith in this Dharma and is able to accept it, it shows that they have seen Buddhas in the past. This is indeed the Vajra speech of the Tathagata. If some people are truly able to believe what you say, then it is a remarkable thing. He is not telling Shariputra to go and teach everywhere at will, but in the process of teaching, he explicitly said, 1. If someone truly accepts it, they will certainly attain the irreversible fruit, a profound and lasting spiritual achievement. And 2. If someone hears this Dharma, it means they have seen the Buddha in the past. Then, during the entire process of your teaching, if someone truly believes, if they genuinely believe what you say, if, while you are diligently teaching, they have profound and unwavering faith in Shariputra's profound words, and if, as we are carefully teaching, they truly and completely believe in what we are saying, then, as the Buddha said, it means this person has seen me. They have already seen me, Shakyamuni Buddha. There is no difference. They have seen me, and they have also seen you, Shariputra. So, why did I just say in accord exactly? If earlier Shariputra was asked to speak, and during the process of speaking he encountered these situations and gave a series of these predictions, it's actually easier to explain according to the Tibetan translation. I've noticed that many Chinese translations' explanations become awkward here, and things start to get inconsistent. Because it says, if one has seen you and also seen me, it seems if Shariputra is told not to speak. If he's told not to speak, but then later it says, has seen you again, it's a bit... So some Tibetan translations are rather distinctive and quite unique in this particular regard. I originally wanted to explain it very carefully following the traditional ancient Tibetan scholarly order, but since many of you clearly don't want me to do that now, there's really nothing else I can possibly do about it. If others have genuine deep faith in you, it means they have already seen me, and it also means they have seen you. And it also means seeing the assembly of monks and bodhisattvas who saw Shakyamuni Buddha. We have encountered the Lotus Sutra, and we believe in it. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. If you truly have faith, then we have seen Shariputra, seen Shakyamuni Buddha, and the monks and bodhisattvas of that time. This is indeed a very auspicious connection, and everyone should feel truly joyful about it. This Lotus Sutra can only be expounded in front of those with profound wisdom. For those with shallow wisdom, those who are not erudite, who are ignorant and narrow-minded, such people remain confused and unable to understand. Just as it is profoundly stated in the treatise on the lamp of definitive understanding, lion's milk can only be safely stored in a precious vessel made of pure gold. If it is put into ordinary iron or clay vessels, they will immediately burst. There is absolutely nothing that can be done. Such a dharma requires a suitable vessel. Those with wisdom can accept it. Those who have karmic connections from past lives will feel, "Oh, the Lotus Sutra is extraordinary." They will be filled with joy, and naturally faith will arise. But if we lack such karmic connections from past lives, we may develop wrong views, doubts, or even feel especially distressed. When will class end? Is it still not over yet? It's already 9:21, and this class still isn't over yet? I'm leaving now. This shows that one's past connection with the Lotus Sutra is not deep. If the karmic connection were deep, you'd think, wow, it would be great if we could talk a bit more. But today, our time is completely up. There's absolutely nothing more we can do.
Bandharangara Badna Sodargye Bandharangara Badna Sodargye Bandharangara Badna Sodargye